Hey everyone, I'm Katana Collins, a USA Today bestselling author of Romances and Romcoms that make your toes curl and your heart swoon.
Welcome to Love Letters and Books, a podcast for anyone who loves a good story. This is a soft space to explore romance and books where no topic is too taboo. I'm your host, Casey, and this week I am sitting down with author Katana Collins. And I am so excited about this episode. We're going to talk about our love for grumpy sunshine dynamics, the healing power of reading happily ever afters, and having the opportunity to rewrite our endings. We'll also talk about the power of having someone in your corner to encourage you and hear you out, whether you're working on a creative project or moving through life changes. We'll also discuss Katana's recent book, Meet Cute or Your Money Back, and how joy and connection can feed us in ways that algorithms cannot. And definitely stay to the end of the episode for Katana's tender love letter to her younger self, a reminder of why we read romantic comedies in the first place. Katana, welcome to the Love Letters and Books podcast. I am so glad you're here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, I have a little personal backstory as we open this episode, and it is that there is not a person in my life who is more supportive, encouraging, invested in my happiness than my brother-in-law. We're actually very close, and I've known him for over 20 years. And when I told him that I was starting this podcast, his very first comment was, "Oh my God, I know this person. She's so amazing. She's a writer. She has all of these books. I know that you'll love them. You have to talk to her." And so I was so excited to pick up your book, learn more about you. I picked up Meet Cute or Your Money Back and fell in love with your voice and your writing. And so I'm so thrilled that you're joining us and we get to talk about your writing, your catalog, your inspiration today. So thank you, Joe, for doing that.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Joe. Sweet Joe.
Sweet
I've
Joe.
I've also known Joe for it probably hasn't been 20 years. You've probably known him longer than me, but I've known him for a while.
Yeah.
In fact, like we should have brought him on. He should have come on the pod. We should have had him read Meet Cute or Your
You
Money
know
Back.
what? I talked to him because I would love to incorporate a graphic novel episode once a week. And I thought that he would be the number one person that I could talk to about that and help me curate that. So, Joe, we're just pressuring you through this episode, and I will make sure to send this to you. And so now we're going to focus on
Just a
you
little.
and your writing and your inspiration. One of the things that I like asking people, is there something that we don't know about you as a writer or as a creative that would help us understand you better or get to know you better?
Yeah, there's probably a lot of things you don't know. um, well, we'll start with I am an actress, or rather, I think I would categorize it as I used to be an actress. I started acting professionally when I was a child. I did a lot of musical theater. So when I started writing, the thing that came most naturally for me was the dialogue, just because I have such a history with dialogue and on the stage and the repertoire back and forth. So yeah, that's one thing that some people know about me, but many people don't. I think this is not a surprise because I think a lot of writers and readers are, but I'm very much an introvert. I am very shy. So if you meet me out in the world, just know it is not in my nature to be gregarious and outspoken when I'm out and about. I fake it pretty well because again, the actress. But yeah, those are maybe two things that are a little get to know me.
Yeah.
And also probably a little insight into how I write and the words that you see come alive on the page.
Oh, I definitely feel that. It makes so much sense to me because one of the things I noticed in the book of yours that I picked up was that dialogue, the back and forth, the interactions. And I was like, oh, I'm immediately sucked in right from those very first pages. How about we use that as a starting point? Can you tell us a little bit about that book and the dynamic between the characters for anyone who's new to this or hasn't picked it up yet?
That book specifically has been a book that I've been wanting to write for a few years. I want to say that idea, I wish I could claim that that idea came to me, but very annoyingly, it was my husband who came up with the premise for Meet Cute or Your Money Back. And he came up with the title. It's fine. But we were watching like a Hallmark Christmas movie or something, probably 3 years ago. And, that's really not Sean's jam, but he watches for me just like I watch Star Trek for him. And after we finished whatever Hallmark movie it was, he looked at me and he was like, "So I was half paying attention because I was coming up with an idea while we were watching." And he said, "What if you have a story about a man who used to be like some sort of ex SEAL or ex military, and he and his buddies now run a matchmaking business? And the title would be Meet Cute or Your Money Back." So that was all him. I mean, granted, like,
Wow.
obviously there's a lot to fill in there. But it is a grumpy sunshine kind of suspense. I felt like with something like an ex-military, ex-SEAL background, like it lends itself to kind of a Tessa Bailey, My Killer Vacation rom-com suspense feel. I feel like that's not really a genre though. It is for Tessa, but Tessa's a unicorn and
Mhm.
amazing, and I love her. But I don't know. I don't feel like I see too many books out there like that. It was very fun to write. I had other projects I had to finish up before I could even start it. I'm just a very linear thinker, and I knew once I began it, everything else would just go on the back burner, so I had to finish what I was working on, and that took a good year and a half to wrap up those before I could actually write this one.
Oh, well, I love learning more about that. That's such an interesting creative collaboration with your husband. I live with a musician, and I have no doubt that he wishes I was contributing lyrics, but alas, I am not yet. But maybe I'm inspired by our conversation today. So I want to talk about your catalog because obviously I did my research and I learned so much about you. And you have been doing this for quite a while. You have an extensive catalog. So, can you tell us a little bit about the starting point of your journey? And I always make fun of myself almost when I ask this because, like, yeah, we've all been writing since we're kids, right? But
Yeah.
when did you make that leap from I'm writing and I'm keeping it to myself to I'm writing and I'm publishing and I'm sharing with the world?
Yeah, I've always loved writing, kind of as you're saying, like we all found this medium, not all, but many of us I think found it when we were young, or we just gravitated to it in school, like the creative writing classes were just easier than the mathematics or whatever. So that was definitely a part of my life. But it's very funny because it never seemed like a viable career in my brain. I don't know why I thought being an actor was, but being a writer wasn't. Like, what? I don't know. But, we're just going to breeze past that. And then I also went to college for photography. So again, like all these kind of like artsy fields, but for
Mhm.
some reason I just had this block that I was like, "Oh, you can't make a living writing. That's crazy." But as a photographer, sure. As an actress, sure. Wild. So I went to school for photography. I got my BFA in photography from Savannah College of Art and Design. And my senior year, I needed like one more random credit to graduate. I just like miscalculated things, and it was really kind of late in the picking of your classes for my final semester. And so I was just like, "Oh god, okay, I need one more like elective." And there was only one writing class with space available, and that was a creative nonfiction class with a professor named Heather June McAdam. And I was like, "All right, cool. I write nonfiction? I mean, for school, I guess, but yeah, never the thing I go to." But I was like, "Sure, let's do it." I went to the first week of classes and we were given our first assignment. And it was very much like creative nonfiction is a weird title for a class. I didn't know what I was walking into, but it's essentially like how do you tell these creative stories that are not fiction based? So it was a lot of like talk about memoirs and how do you tell someone else's story, but in a way that is still lovely prose. And so the first assignment was like a short story about something in your life. And I think I told a very funny dating story that I had. Very rom-com esque, but it was true. It was nonfiction. But I wrote it as if it was fiction, right? I wrote it in the style of a rom-com story. And after I turned in that first assignment, my professor asked me to stay after class, and she was like, "I've not seen you. Are you in the writing program?" And I said, "No, I'm a photo major. I'm graduating in, 12 weeks. Um, and she was like, "Oh, no, you're not a photographer, you're a writer." She was like, "I don't know your photography, but I can tell you right now, you're a writer." And I was like, "Ooh, it's a little late. Sorry, this is the degree I'm getting. I'm not going back to school for another 4 years." But she stayed as my mentor for years. And even after I graduated, I moved to New York, I started working in television. She was always very encouraging. And because of her, I wrote my first book, which didn't go anywhere. It was like sort of a collection of those similar short stories, right? It was like these rom-com style memoir, and that didn't go anywhere. But then I wrote this paranormal erotic novel, and that got bought. And it got bought as a 3-book trilogy by Kensington. And she was there at my first launch party. She came, and it was very, very sweet.
Oh, no one can see this, but in the background, my jaw is just on the floor, and it's just like, and that's just what happened. Like I just wrote, and it was
It,
incredible. And I know that there's a lot of work that goes into it, but it's so beautiful. And I'm so grateful that you're willing to share that story. And one thing that I picked out from it that is really important is where you said, I wrote the first thing and it didn't go anywhere. And I want to highlight that for a second because I feel like so many of us have that one thing in our lives that we're working towards and it doesn't go anywhere. And
Mhm.
we're at that crossroads and maybe we're dealing with that self-doubt or that voice in our head, whether it's ours or someone else's, that's telling us, "Oh, that's a waste of time. Don't do that." And then I see you walking this path of I want to see what happens if I don't give up. Like I want to see what the
Yes.
next thing is.
And that's what Heather said when I talked about, I was like, "Oh, I don't know what to do next." And she said, honestly, most people's first thing they write is some sort of memoir based because it's what you know. It's
Mhm.
what a lot of us go to. And so she was like, "So just write the next thing. Just it's that's still there and you can still shop it around, but like just start the next project." And I had interned at a couple of publishers in New York because I was just curious like what the meetings were like on this side of the table. And I'm such like a research gatherer by nature that I had the spare time. I was like, why not? Let me just go take this internship, take this job as like a editorial assistant and see what they're saying in these meetings. What are they buying? Why are they buying it? And it was the age of 50 Shades of Grey.
Ooh,
And yeah, it
that
was
was a
like,
specific time.
yeah, that and like Twilight, right? So
Yeah.
there were like so many discussions around this table of like, well, vampires are dead and like, or undead. Um,
Yeah.
but first of all, vampires are never dead. They're evergreen. Everyone loves a vampire. But it was very oversaturated at that time. So they didn't want any more vampires, but they wanted erotic. They wanted something paranormal.
Mhm.
Werewolves were kind of like a little like shifter werewolves were on the verge of being overdone. And as many people I'm sure know, preaching to the choir, publishing, at least like the big publishers, are a very slow medium. So like even if you write your book, by the time it comes out, if you're with the big 5 or big 6, it's a year and a half later. So yeah, they were worried about even the shifter werewolf was going to be like too saturated. And so that's when I was like, okay, I can do this. I can do paranormal erotica. What's not overdone? And because of that meeting I sat in on, I was like, okay, succubus. I don't see many succubi out there, like incubi, succubi, and that's what I went with, and that was my first book that I wrote and submitted it, and yeah, and they said like, "Cool, can you make it a trilogy and let's have it end on a cliffhanger, and you write 2 more to go with this." And I was
Oh
like,
my god, this story is incredible. I love this, and of course, no one would know this, right? Like, this is the insider
"Right,
information that I was, like, dying for. I do have to tell you, I have a deeply embarrassing 50 Shades of Grey Twilight story that I have to tell you because no one has ever mentioned those 2 on the podcast. But back when those were very
really?"
popular. No, this is incredible, like, it was my dumbest moment on earth, but I will share it with you and with whoever listens. Back at the time when that came out and it was very popular, I was in the trenches with work. I literally went to bed thinking about work. I slept on my phone. Like I had no life, and I can freely admit it. I was 24
Mm.
hours a day. So I didn't really know what was going on in the world. A friend came over for dinner. He had an accident. I had to take him to the emergency room, and the emergency room doctor was like, "You have to keep him awake. I don't care what you do, but we're not going to get to him for a while. He cannot go to sleep." So I was like, "Okay, we're in this room together." I was like, "Talk about anything. I haven't been outside I have no idea what the people are doing." And so he gets on this rant about 50 Shades of Grey. And he's going on and on about it. And I'm asking questions because I'm kind of confused. I don't know much about the book. I don't know what's going on. He's going on and on. Honestly, the conversation was like an hour long. We get to the end, and I'm like, "Oh, wait a second. They're vampires?" And he's like, "What do you mean they're vampires?" He's like, "I haven't said anything about that. We've been talking for an hour." I was like, "But isn't it like they're like teenage vampires?" And he's like, "That's Twilight. What is wrong with you?" And I was like, "I don't know." Like, I hadn't watched TV. I hadn't seen a movie. Like, I hadn't like listened to music in a year. And I was like, "Okay, I'm catching up." So that was my deep dive. And I was just like, now I realize that they are different things and super embarrassing, but I have since returned to the land of the living and I'm understanding what is out there and what people are into. And I love that you shared that. And
But
so
also not that embarrassing. Like, it was like
it
your
was kind of
subconscious
embarrassing.
did tap into it, because no, because like, subconsciously, you knew 50 Shades was Twilight fan fiction. Like, your brain.
I'm learning that right now. I had no idea. I did not know.
Well, do not be embarrassed. That's a connection that, like, yeah, it was
Yeah.
originally Twilight fanfic that E.L. James wrote, and then it was so popular. I forget. I like listeners out there who know the history better, do not quote me on this, but like, it was so popular in the free medium that she had that it got picked up. I think, or like, she self-published it maybe first and like changed enough that it was obviously legal to publish. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Oh
So
my
like,
gosh.
it's very interesting that your brain connected those dots, even though you hadn't. I assume you hadn't read either at the time. Yeah,
No, I
yeah.
really you're being so kind, and I really appreciate it. My friend was like he's like, "I'm the one who had the accident. Like, are you okay?" And I was like, "No, no, no, I'm definitely fine. I haven't had no social life in so long." So, oh, I love that, and I really appreciate you bringing us into that stage of your journey. And so, since then, you have amassed such a catalog of books, and I have a few questions about it, but the first is, if someone was hearing about you today, what is the first book of yours that you would hand them and say, "Read this, start your journey"?
It would be either Meet Cute or Your Money Back, because it was a book I so wanted to write for so long, and I'm really proud of it. And I'm very excited by it, right? Like, it's the series I'm working on right now, and it's like it's the thing I can like most be excited about and talk
Yeah.
about. Or I would hand them Beefcakes, which is book one in my other like small town rom-com series. And that has 6 books in it, and it's a finished series, so it's like a really easy gateway, right? If I'm like, "Hey, this is very much my style." I feel like that's also the book that I found really my style and what I wanna do. Yeah, so I would say one of those 2, or at least my style for now. I feel like that can always change, and we adapt and we evolve. So for now, this, like, fun, zany rom-com, but still with some heart to it.
You know what's so interesting too? Because I'm not very active on social media in engaging, I guess, if I can admit. I do post and then I kind of run away a little bit. But I do read a lot of people's comments, especially in Facebook groups. And so many people share their experience of negative pushback or feedback from a partner when they
Mm.
express that they are interested in romance, the genre in general, whether it's, reading or audiobooks or whatever it is. And then here you're telling us this story of a partner who's sitting there with you and like, "I've got an idea. Definitely write this book." And I just want to touch on that for a moment of what that feels like to have someone who's all in supporting your creative endeavors and understanding the medium and the genre and just encouraging you. For anyone who doesn't feel like they have that in their life, what does that feel like?
Oh, oh, it makes my heart ache if you don't have that. It's really easy to take it for granted when you do have it, right? Like, Sean and I have always been very supportive of each other. I almost don't know any other way to be, let alone also be received. I grew up in a really loving, supportive family my whole life. I've just been really fortunate in who I'm surrounded by. I mean, even my parents, well, my mother's a little artsy, but my dad is very like business brained type A. Both my parents are in, they're not doctors, but they're in like the medical realm, right? Like my dad's a hospital administrator, or he was. My mom was a nurse. And so when they had this very eccentric little girl who like wanted to wear feather boas to Catholic mass every week, and like I was just like really like I am clearly an actor. And they were like, "Oh, okay, well, we gotta do something with this kid." Um, and it didn't necessarily matter that it wasn't a world they knew super well. They just dove in with me. And maybe because I was raised with that,
Hmm.
I sought that out in a partner, right? Like that was very important to me in a partner. Yeah. So for those who don't know what that's like, boy, oh boy, I would say if you don't know what that's like, I would encourage you to find a critique group for and whatever medium it is, right? You may not be a writer. I guess I'm kind of assuming most of us who are listening are writers, but actually you may just be a reader who loves to read and consume stories like this, in which case I say go find your book club. Go find your people who are like-minded and who will celebrate you even if it's a book club where like you like rom-coms and they like romantasy or whatever, go find that person or those people that will be thrilled for you, even if it's not a book they personally want to pick up too. And get a taste for what that support feels like and looks like, because it is a cocoon of love and warmth when you find it. And it's something that I wish for everybody. And like I said, it makes me ache for the people who don't have that. When I hear those stories of other authors whose husbands are not supportive of them, uh, I never even have advice for that, right? It's
Hmm.
so foreign to me. And also like even if you're writing your first book and even if nothing comes of it, even if you don't indie pub, even if it doesn't get picked up by a publisher, like who wants to be around someone who doesn't dream?
Yeah.
I want to surround myself with dreamers. I
Yeah.
mean, you know what? Shit. Email me. Friends, if you are out there and you don't have this person, contact form on my website. I will be your hype person. I will
Yeah.
help you with that because everyone deserves to have that.
Oh, that's so sweet and so beautiful. And it made me think of recently, I went to a local bookstore, Smitten in Ventura, California. And it was part
Ooh.
of my like perfect day. I had a perfect day planned out. I was like, I'm getting a burrito. I'm going to the beach. I'm gonna, it was on the list. And I was like, then I'm gonna go to Smitten and buy a bunch of books. And I walked in and I'm very much by nature an observer. So I just kicked back and observed. And I was looking at the checkout line, and it was a bunch of different groups of women with their bundles of books, and they were just almost like in a frenzy of joy, talking about like Elsie Silver books. And they were like, "Oh my God, you haven't read this one? You have to read this one, did?" And it was like this back and forth. And it was just so beautiful to see how we can drop into that space with strangers and that effusive joy and connection and support and just giddiness. I mean, for lack of a better word, I don't even think that's the appropriate word, but that just that energy, that buzz that comes when people are just nodding along with you, being like, "Oh yeah, yeah, me too," instead of instantly being like, "Oh, that gives me the ick," or like, "I don't like that," like that energy. It's just interesting to light up with someone else and how important that is, even if it's your partner, and even if you're not an author, if you're a reader and you're reading something that's really intriguing to you, and it's like opening your mind up to possibilities or a way to live your life. I think it's really beautiful when you can share that with a partner. And I feel like for me as a reader, I'm a writer. I write very boring technical stuff. So I write medical stuff. I don't write exciting things. But I just think about that as a reader, how often I pause and I'm reading and I share it with my partner.
Mm.
And he's been reading this book, whenever he has it open, he's like, "You have to listen to this." And he'll read me a chapter or a part of it. And it's just like that energy exchange is so beautiful. And if you don't have that, I also hope that this podcast is a space for that, where you know that you can come and hear someone like you say, "No, no,
Mm,
no, reach out to me. I'm your hype person." I would love to hear that, because the things that we're interested in, the things that inspire us, I feel like we need to lean into them more than self-edit. And so I like that we're having this conversation. And yeah, I that story about your husband just made me smile so much. I just loved it. So let's go into sort of the rest of your catalog. And I'm thinking about the why behind your stories, and, what is driving, whether the plot or the character? Is there sort of a message that's a thread throughout your stories that you want your reader to pick up on, even if it's a different genre or a different type of book? Like, is there a why behind your story?
I mean, I yes, there is a why behind every story. I I think sometimes the why changes. However, there's a reason why I only write happily ever afters for now, at least. I just want joy in my life. I want it in my life. I want it in what I create. Even when it's like some of the stuff in the past that I've written is a little on the darker side. I would not call any of what I write dark romance by any means, especially by today's standard. I think you will be sorely disappointed if you read any of my catalog thinking it's dark romance. But I certainly have older stories that are darker than what I'm currently creating. But, even with those, it still ends happily, every single one. And even I had a book that I wrote called Healing You. It's in my small town Maple Grove series. And the hero is a veterinarian, and the heroine is she runs a dog rescue or an animal rescue. And her dog has lymphoma. And I wrote that while my dog had lymphoma. And I got a few emails from people who were afraid to read the book because we know how most of those cases turn out.
Mhm.
And so I kind of had to put like a qualifier in the beginning of the book that was like, "Hey, I wrote this book so I could rewrite my dog's ending. Like, it is a good ending. No dogs are harmed in the creation of this story, and in memory of my dog that did not get that ending." So yeah, like I just in a world and in a time where there's not always joyful things, I want to be joy. And I believe in love, and I believe that love is for everyone, and all kinds of love is for everyone, not just romantic love, but obviously rom-coms and romance novels focus on romantic love, but not just, we have a lot of like stories of sisters and mothers and families and found families. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's
I'm
so
afraid that that's a little generic of an answer, so I
No,
apologize,
not at
but
all. I really appreciated that answer, and I wanted to go a little bit deeper into something you said about giving your dog, and, by proxy you, a different version of that story. And I was thinking about that because I thought part of the reason that I think that this genre is so healing is that it does offer us the opportunity to experience things in a way that we may not have experienced it in real life. Literally
yeah.
yesterday, I put out an episode, and in the episode, I'm talking to Misha Stone, and part of her stories is there's a lot of revenge in the stories, and it's
Mm.
very intense. And I was talking to her about it and saying, that's so powerful for survivors, because for the most part, the people who have harmed us get away with it. And it
Yeah.
just, you just have to go on. You have to go to work and pay your bills and deal with this thing inside of you that is just, it feels like it's never going to go away, right? And we
Yeah.
don't get that experience, but in storytelling we do. Or the other thing I think about storytelling is the access to emotions that maybe we were not raised with or felt safe with or had an ability to get in touch with. So for me personally, it's almost embarrassing, right? Right. I'm in my 40s. I was a therapist. I'm like, I really struggle with that. I just very much always was observing things, but wasn't really feeling them. And I read and I think, oh, that's what that is. Oh,
Mhm.
that's what was going on with me then. Oh, and I feel like it can be so powerful in that way, where it doesn't have to be, a 10 steps
Yes.
to happiness textbook. It can be a beautiful rom-com, and I'm like, "Oh, that's why I like that. That's why I did that. That's why I miscommunicated
Yeah.
myself for 20 years," like, I think it's so powerful, and so I think just checking in with you to be in this space where you are a storyteller. And I think it's funny because as what you're a storyteller through and through, whether it's through your body, your words, the written word very much feels like who you are. But choosing that in this time and space and creating a space for other women to drop into that with you, that's so powerful. And I think it's really helpful. And I always worry when women are cut off from telling their stories. I feel like
Mm.
that's a big red flag when you can't say something because someone's shaming you or making fun of you or, like, why are my words so dangerous? Why is just telling a story a terrible thing? So, to be in this space and to, I definitely see you continuing this being your zone of genius. What does that feel like to know that you're going to continue to be tapping into these stories and emotions? Your anonymous readership, for the most part, you don't know who your readers are going to put themselves in your stories, feel happiness, healed, joy, challenged, all of that. What does that feel like as a
Mm.
writer?
Yeah, it's so interesting that you brought that up because I I joke, but also half joke because it's kind of absurd. I hate feeling emotion. Like I'm like, don't make me feel. Like I
Hey,
don't make
bestie. Hey, bestie. Like, we
like
found each
don't
other.
make
We
me
finally found
cry.
each other.
Yeah, I'm like, I hate it. I hate that I have emotions, right? Let's talk to my inner child about that later. But I always found acting for the longest time was the space that I could allow myself to feel.
Mm,
And, there again, we can deep dive psychoanalyze that till the end of days because, like, it's not me, quote unquote, on the stage feeling. I'm pretending to be someone else. I'm playing a character, but I can tap in and cry real tears like that if I'm playing a character on the stage. If it's me, if it's Katana right now in front of you, allowing myself to feel and cry is very hard for me. Um, but I also find that when I am reading, I'm okay tapping into that emotion because again, it's not me, right?
mhm,
As you touched on, I can experience this emotion through a vessel of someone else, through someone else's eyes, through someone else's heart, through someone else's words. And that feels safe to do so. So I love that I can also give that to other readers. And some readers love it. Like one of one of my best friends is the opposite of me. She wants to feel everything all the time and she will like hand me any what choose me the form of media. It doesn't matter. Like here's a book, here's a movie, here's a TV show. She's like you're going to bawl your eyes out. I'm like I don't cuz now that I know I'm going to bawl my eyes out, I don't want to do it. Like you can't
yeah.
you just have to like surprise me with it. You have to like 1-2 punch me into it. Um but if I know, I'm like, I don't want to go into it watching the tearjerker. But she's the type where she's like, I need a good cry tonight. I know I'm going to put on whatever it is, the notebook or whatever makes her cry. And I'm like, oh my God, that is so not me. Like, I will never intentionally make myself cry, but I will once I'm in it. It's like I'm the frog being boiled slowly, right? Like if you start like simmering the water and turning it up, and then I'm like, now we can let it happen.
Oh,
And it's
yeah.
easier because it's not me.
Yeah.
It's it's you, it's your words, it's your character.
Yeah, I just think that's so powerful, and I feel like it's a little overlooked, to be honest with you, and I feel like we're bombarded with messages 24 hours a day, whether it's through social media, traditional media, just being outside, signage, things like that. And so when we can drop into a space where we can tune that out and follow a story and drop into our emotions, I do think that it's a very, very helpful. And I think I've actually been pretty shocked at the books that broke me open and
Yeah.
I think for each of us, we have books that might be a little surprising to other people to explain, like, "This is the book that got me," and it's like, "Really? That one?" But, no, I love that you're sharing that. So, was there were there, not just one, but were there books throughout your life that really did drop you into those emotional spaces? Whether it was what you read when you were younger, something you're reading now, is there something that stands out in your mind?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like there was like a whole section of books in childhood that, at least my childhood, that were scarring, right? Like we've got Where the Red Fern Grows, we've got Bridge to Terabithia, we've got the freaking movie My Girl, I feel like it's a less popular version of Where the Red Fern Grows, but Shiloh nearly killed me. It's like it ended up being like, because of Where the Red Fern Grows and Shiloh, I cannot read sad dog books. I like Marley and Me, go fuck yourself. I'm sorry. Can we say that? I'm sorry.
Yeah, you can say
Um,
anything you want.
Now, people who love Marley and Me, I'm so glad you have that. I cannot anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want, like, what's that other one that was kind of a movie slash book recently, like a dog's path or a dog's journey, and it's all about how their souls are whatever. I can't do it. That's where, like, that's my line.
I love
Also
that.
why
That's the
I
line that you draw. It's like
no more. Like, please no. That's why with my book I was like, no, no, we're
mhm.
not killing the dog. This dog gets his and like you said very poignantly, and was I rewrote my ending too because I
Yeah.
had to say goodbye to him. But yeah, so those were the formative books when I was younger that I was like, oh my, absolutely not. They crushed me. What about you? Did you have, like, childhood books that
Oh,
got you?
God. Well, yeah, we had this strange thing in my household, and I was very much raised in the parenting style of the 1980s where basically you raise yourself. Try not to get, like,
Mm.
yeah. Anyway, but there was one rule in my house that if you wanted a fun book, you had to read 2 educational books. So
Oh,
this was tough, okay? But not for I'm like a speed reader, so it was okay, but it was a lot of things to take in. So if I wanted like a Sweet Valley High book, which I don't know if I'm really dating myself, but like
oh my
a
god,
s
I
like
love Sweet Valley
Sweet
High.
Valley High was like, I think I live in California now because I read those books growing up, and I was like, "That's what California's like I should be there." But anyway, I digress. But if I wanted to read that, I had to read a book about, like, World War One or, like, you know, some
Oof.
biology book. So anyway, so that's sort of the preface of this, but then there was this one book called Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, and it was my
Yeah.
favorite. It was like a childhood horror book, and they were terrifying, by the way, the stories. I loved that. And so I'd say at a very young age, but then I have to just be honest, I am a victim of VC Andrews. Like, I was reading that in, like, junior high, and every author I've had on this podcast has been like, "Me too." Like, they just no one was watching us. Like, no one was paying attention,
Yes.
and we were all reading these very, very taboo, strange, dark stories. And then I'd say, if I'm being serious, you can laugh at this because they made a movie out of it, and the movie was terrible. So I'm not talking about the movie, I'm talking about the book. The Prince of Tides by Pat Conroy was
Okay.
one of the more impactful books, and it is so powerful. It's trigger warnings beyond belief. There's so much trauma in it, but it's about this family that navigates generational trauma and all the different paths you can take and how it shows up in your life, especially when you're resistant to
Mm,
healing. And it was just so beautiful and powerful and full of deeply flawed characters, which I
mm,
love human characters. I love when someone says the wrong thing, they do the wrong thing, they don't know what's going on, they're a little bit mean sometimes, like I love humans, which I know not everyone loves that. I do love that. And I would say those really impacted me. I guess I'm gonna dark space it because I'm gonna also say White Oleander.
oh,
Man,
yeah.
I mean, I you're scared of her mom, but you're a little inspired. You know what I mean? Like, it was
Mm,
just like so I'd say some of those really, impacted me back then, and then to bring us to present tense, thinking of your friend because I haven't stopped thinking of it since you mentioned her, like, the fr like, when I really wanna cry, I was thinking, I read A Ballad of Phantoms and Hope by Cam Moronova earlier this year. I'm finally at a space where I can mention the book without crying. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah, I don't know what she put in that book, but it, was exactly what I needed. It was very cathartic. So, those are some of mine, but who are you reading right now? Do you have someone on your Kindle or on your bedside table that you're picking up?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm currently reading Abby Jimenez, who is one of those authors who will make me cry. But like, she's sneaky about it.
Yeah.
Like, looking at you, Abby. Because that's how she got me, right? I was like, oh, this looks like a cute rom-com. And then like blam, someone's fiance is dead. Like, what? What's this? I thought I was reading a rom-com. But she does it masterfully. Like she's
Yeah.
a genius with it. Although now that I'm like on to her, I'm like, Abby, I see you. Like, so now I'm like, I do brace myself when I pick up one of her books. I'm like, okay, is this gonna get me? And it usually does. But so that's what I'm currently reading. I have my little like fall autumnal TBR set up because I'm almost done with Say You'll Remember Me. So I have Society of Irregular Witches, I think is the title. That's up next for me. And then shoot, something about Jack the Ripper on my TBR, but like now I can't remember the exact title, of course. Because they're like literally on my nightstand, right? Like
No, no,
that's
no,
where
I get
my
it. I
like
get it.
I they're like in order of what's next on my nightstand. And then I have again, I'm so bad with titles and names. I'm so sorry to everybody, but Lyra Parrish has a new autumn with fall literally in the title. So like
Yeah.
that's on my list too.
I was just wondering about the book community and the author community and the reader community. I mean, it's this intersection of a lot of people, especially when you go to events and signings and things like that or panels. So, is there something about that that you really enjoy?
Yeah. And, I will preface it with kind of how we started the podcast, where I am an introvert and I am quite shy, which most people don't believe. I'm just very good at hiding it and masking it. That's the actor in me. Um, so it does take from my cup, right? Like it does drain me of energy going to things like that. But that doesn't mean I don't love it. I still do really enjoy going to events. I need to be a little more mindful about how many I take on in a year. But that being said, I find the community still very invigorating. It's a weird combo when you're an introvert because it is energizing in its own way, but yet I do come home from a book event and I have to like sleep for a whole day. I'm
Yeah.
just like
Oh, no, I relate to that deeply. What about online spaces? Because, it's almost an expectation, right? And obviously someone
Mhm,
could not, but it's almost an expectation these days that you will show up as a writer but also
mhm.
almost as the personality, almost sharing a part of yourself, or maybe like 30 years ago, that was not an expectation. And being in those spaces, not just on one platform, but on multiple platforms, but sometimes in like, multiple usernames on the same platform, like really trying to get out there, reach your audience, promote your book. So, what about that part of it? How do you show up in that space in a way that feels most authentic to you?
Yeah, social media is tricky, right? I have set pretty clear boundaries for myself in those spaces. And one of which is also just kind of rediscovering the joy of social media, which sounds weird because like I think a lot of us don't find joy in social media at all right now, but I remember like I don't know, maybe 2 years ago having this consult about TikTok and like all the things that you need to be doing and you should have a different account for different aesthetics. And like, if you're going to do just like videos of a book being flipped open, then that should all be on one account. And then you should create another account if you're doing like face videos with you and your book. And then if you actually want to just consume TikToks and media, you should have your own personal account. And I was like, I'm just not going to do it if I have to have four different accounts to exist on one platform, right? Like, and so I've recently come full circle after work I work a lot with Becca Syme. She's an author coach. She's very, very brilliant. And she's kind of one of those people who's like, what if you didn't? What if you just have one? And what if you just post whatever the you want to post, when you want to post it. And like, what if it doesn't sell your books, but you just enjoy being on it again? And so that's kind of where I'm at right now. I am watching pottery videos on TikTok. I am watching some book videos, like the happy ones, the positive spaces. I'm watching cooking videos, like getting recipe ideas. There's like all the Trader Joe's, like what to buy at Trader Joe's right now. It's like
Yeah.
weirdly loving those videos. Yeah. So I'm sort of, I feel like I am teaching myself how to exist in this space again for me.
Mhm.
And I actually think it means showing up more as my authentic self, right? Like it's not as much of this like curated video of buy my book, buy my book, buy my book. And like that's still on there, but it's
Yeah.
because I'm like, oh, but this is a video I enjoyed creating. Not just because I'm like, oh, well, this is the account that I have to do the flippy book pages. Like,
Yeah.
no, it's like, oh, I want to show my face. I'm like, I'm in makeup today. I probably will do a video with my face today because why not?
No, I love that, but I'm also hearing so many parallels that you could take away from what you just said with other areas of our life. And I do that a lot because I don't think something is just one thing. I think it can apply to a lot of things. But even if the takeaway from this episode is finding ways to bring more joy, to bring yourself almost back to center, could be a really helpful, powerful message. And just trusting what could happen from that, like trusting joy and
Mhm.
what that generates versus this constant like overproduction and taxing yourself. And I think that that's a really powerful message, whether someone is a book talk creator, an author, a reader, whatever it is, if there's some other area of your life that you're doing this in, finding the thing that works for you, I think is really important. I think it's really interesting that you're being given almost advice in that way of just like lean into this because this feels more authentic to you. And that's
Yeah.
okay. you know?
Yeah.
No, that's really good
Yes.
advice, and I just see how that applies to so many other things. So, oh, I've had the best time talking to you, and I'm just so grateful for all that you shared in this episode. I want to shift into what is coming up next for you, not because I'm rushing you, but because I'm genuinely interested in what you have going on in 2026.
Thank you. Well, I just also want to say I've had a great time chatting with you too. Apparently, my fellow non emotive sister from another mister. Yeah, so coming up for me, let's see. I just had a book come out in September called Resisting You. It's
Mm.
the fourth book in the Maple Grove Small Town series where like each sibling gets their own book. They're standalones. You can read them in any order that you want. I have a Christmas book coming out called Rebel Without a Clause about a reindeer farmer, broody, grumpy reindeer farmer, and the glittery, sunshiny, the daughter of the local inn, right? Who needs to be saved. Um, I definitely have a trope that I love, grumpy sunshine. It comes up a lot in my books. It comes up a lot in my life. So that's coming out. And then I am also working on the next Meet Cute book. It's called Mission Meet Cute. And it is the next seal from the matchmaker company, which also for the record, because my husband like as we talked about, came up with the premise, he was like, wait, they all get their own. He was like, that's weird. Like, why does each, and I was like, you just need to leave this part up to me, man. This is
Yeah,
how it works. Like,
step
and he was like,
aside.
no, but like, what if they don't? What if the other two Seal brothers like don't get their people from the matchmaking bit? And I was like, no, like that's the whole point is like we're setting
That's
up
not
this
how this
world. Like,
works.
yeah, like you go to Starbucks to order like one of three of the same beverages, right?
Yeah,
Like we all know our Starbucks order. It's like
right.
this is the Starbucks order.
I
Anyway,
love
so I'm
that.
working on the next book in that series.
Oh, incredible. Well, thank you for sharing so much with us. And I definitely want to give you the time and space to share the love letter that you wrote. And for
Mhm.
anyone who's listening, I always invite any of my guests to write and read a love letter either to their younger selves or to their readers. So the floor is yours. I'd love to hear your love letter.
Thank you. I wrote this yesterday. Um, Which at first I was like panic writing. I was like staring at the blank page, kind of like, oh God. It's I'm in a therapy session. But it once I got started, it flowed. So
Yeah.
here goes nothing. Dear little Katana, I see you, girl, standing center stage, a little too small for the spotlight, but determined to fill it anyway. Heart thudding, voice trembling, but eyes alive with stories no one else can see yet. You don't know it now, but that wide eyed dreamer in tap shoes, the one who talks too much and laughs too loud and gets lost in make believe, is building something extraordinary. You're a storyteller. You always have been. Whether you're belting show tunes, scribbling on napkins, or inventing dialogue in your head, you're shaping a world where love will always find a way, where the quirky girl doesn't just belong, but she shines. And one day you'll write stories that will make people laugh and cry and believe in love again. You'll craft romances that reach into the quiet corners of people's hearts. Stories that will remind the retired widow of her first kiss, soft and sweet beneath a summer sky. Scenes that will bring tears to the eyes of a single mother who needs a spark of hope that her happily ever after is still waiting for her, too. And somewhere, a reader will close your book, glance at her husband beside her, and smile because your words reminded her just how much love she already holds in her hands. You'll give people not just an escape, but a mirror, a reflection of love that is messy and real and worth believing in. You'll be a USA Today bestselling author. I know it sounds wild, but that dreamer in you, she's got some good instincts. I want you to know that your weirdness, that special, sparkling, one of a kind part of you, is not something to hide. It's your magic. It's what makes you you. The way you trip over your words because your brain is running ahead, the way you blush when you talk about the things you love, the way you carry entire worlds in your heart. Those are the very things that will set your stories apart someday. And you'll still adore the same things: dogs, romance, theater, singing, pottery, laughter, those meet cutes that feel like destiny, and the grand gestures that make your chest ache. You'll turn that adoration into art. You'll create characters who are messy and hopeful, who believe in love even when it feels impossible. You'll remind others and yourself that love is never too far away. And speaking of love, wait until you meet him. You'll find him in college, quiet and brooding, with eyes that see right through the little acting performances you put on to mask your shyness. He's everything you've read about, and yet he's wholly his own. An artist with ink stained hands and a heart that softens only for you. You'll be the sunshine to his grumpy, the laughter in his silence, and together you'll become your own favorite trope: the grump and the glittering girl, a love story that lasts. 13 years into your marriage, you'll still look at him and think, this is my forever. Your family, that warm cocoon of love and noise and encouragement, will always be your anchor. You'll take a little bit of each of them with you: your dad's business brain, your mother's sass, your sister's grace and brilliance, your brother's wild creativity, and you'll mix them into your own melody. You'll find that you never needed to become any of them. You were always enough because you were always you. And someday, when you're sitting with a cup of coffee and three dogs at your feet, typing another happily ever after, you'll smile because you'll realize you didn't grow out of that little theater girl. You grew from her, her courage, her curiosity, her love of love. So keep dreaming, keep writing, keep believing that your heart, big, nerdy, romantic, and unashamed, is your compass, and it will lead you exactly where you're meant to go. With love, pride, and a wink, your future self.
You had me tearing up so much. I love we spent this whole episode talking about lack of
All those
emotions, and
things too.
oh
I
my
know.
gosh, no, that was so beautiful, and I really, really appreciate you sharing that with all of us. I know it was a love letter to your younger self, but I feel like it's those letters that really touch everyone. Everyone can really
Yeah.
relate to and get something from. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And as we're saying goodbye, how do you like people to get in touch with you, connect with you? It's obvious we're all on social media, but what is your preference? Is it a newsletter, the website? What do you like?
Oh man, I probably spend most of my time on Instagram and TikTok, right? Like those are the two spaces that I message back the most within. I have a newsletter. I don't send it out very much. So if you're just looking for the like a few times a year updates, that's where to go. You can sign up for that at katanacollins.com. And then my Instagram and TikTok are just at Katana Collins. Katana like the sword, spelled like the sword, if anyone's wondering.
Oh, thank you so much for joining us. I really enjoyed talking to you. Thanks, Joe. Thanks for connecting us. I
Thanks,
really
Joe.
appreciate that. I mean, I probably would have
Nope.
found you anyway, but I love that he made that initial connection. And I really hope you come back and join us again soon because I
I
really
would
enjoyed
love
this
to.
conversation. Good.
I would love
Good.
to.
Of a weekly
Thank
yap
you.
session. Okay.
Oh my God, yes.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Love Letters and Books, a podcast for anyone who loves a good story. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to follow, rate, and review this podcast on your favorite listening platform. You can find me on both Instagram and TikTok at Love Letters and Books. And if you're interested in being a guest on Love Letters and Books, suggesting your favorite author, or just want to write in an original love letter to yourself or someone else to be read on air, please send me an email at lovelettersandmixtapes@gmail.com.